people, the last time when we were on the show, we had talked back then that the average American could only afford $22 a month for food. That's not a lot of money, right? And especially there's a lot of people that are struggling to make ends meet to feed themselves nowadays. But what we do know is we've got a mountain of research and science that can show that a tablespoon can take you a long way, a tablespoon of something minimally processed added into something ultra processed, and removing a tablespoon of something ultra processed can go a long way for inflammatory markers, for the reduction of AGEs, advanced glycation end products, glycoproteins that they're finding in some of these foods. So when we designed the book, what we wanted to show was, okay, we know whole foods are expensive. If you can afford it, perfect. Here's a great way to make a whole bunch of balanced recipes with whole foods. But if you're on a budget, let us show you how to use some nutritional supplements to bring them in to balance your meals and bring your costs down dramatically. So we give people the options of, if you're in this space or if you're over in this space, let's start with some tablespoons and let's try to make that bowl better.
One question that I often get is, I want to give my dogs raw food, and maybe the easiest way is to go to a big box store like Costco or Walmart and buy the jumbo packs of chicken breasts. And that's raw food, and that's going to be better than the ultra-processed kibble. But at the same time, I worry, and I want your opinion on this. These animals have been fed antibiotics and are loaded with herbicides and pesticides. Are we, even though it might be raw, are we doing a disservice in doing that, or is there a balance? What say you?
Well, I'll just jump in and say that any human food coming from any big box store has passed USDA inspection, and that's a heck of a lot better quality than what dogs and cats are currently eating, which is called feed grade. When foods are inspected in the US, if they pass, they go into the human food chain. All of the foods that fail inspection go into feed, that not just dog and cat feed, but chicken feed, pig feed. We feed our animals the leftovers, runoff, and failed foods from the human food supply. So if you think that mycotoxins and pesticide loads are heavy in human foods at Costco, every bag of dog and cat food is substantially worse. So what I would say is, if you can afford to buy organic, free range, ethically sourced, great. If you can't, the quality of human grade food that you're buying anywhere is still substantially better than what you're buying at big box pet food stores. Hands down better, because it's past inspection.
Good to know. All right, dogs, Costco chicken tonight. No. I got to wrap it up pretty soon, but I want to bring up an interesting study in the book. Now, similar to we humans, it's not just about what your dogs eat, but when. We talked a little bit about this last time. Tell me about time-restricted eating in dogs. Is that cruel, or is that a good idea?
First and foremost, if you want to get dog moms sitting outside your house with swords waiting to cut you up, tell them to only feed their dogs once a day, which was the struggle that we initially had when we were trying to introduce this concept of time-restricted feeding, intermittent fasting, whatever you want to call it. You know, Dr. Gundry, the Dog Aging Project in the United States did the largest feeding frequency trial of its kind with 24,000 dogs. And what they found in the studies were that dogs that were fed once a day, they were less likely to suffer age-related diseases eating once a day. But this can be a really big struggle for folks when you try to tell them that, right? Hey, we've got studies to show that your dogs potentially can live longer if you only fed them once a day. So when we sat down with Dr. Sachin Panda at the Salk Institute and we talked about this, he brought up that that feeding window, Dr. Becker, of 6 to 8 hours, if you may.
Kitties are obligate carnivores. Dogs are scavenging carnivores. They are not ruminants. So cows, horses, ruminant animals, vegan animals need to be eating a little bit all the time. They're nibbling, they're grazing throughout the day. And there are some animals that grazing is a biologically appropriate behavior. Dogs and cats are not physiologically grazers. They are meant to feast and then fast. The problem is, Dr. Gundry, in the US, we tend to put a bowl of carbohydrate-based food down and say, have at it. And dogs and cats tend to nibble throughout the day, which means they're constantly having higher blood sugar. They're constantly releasing insulin. they're nibbling and snacking throughout the day, which causes a lot of metabolic stress. So our happy medium between the dog aging study results saying once a day feeding is best and the world melting down and saying that's cruel, what we follow Dr. Sachin Panda's advice, who said, create a 6 to 8 hour window. And if you want to feed your dog 3 meals, feed them within that 6 to 8 hour window. So if your dog is used to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, cram all those calories in, get all those daily calories in during that specific window, which means you're giving the rest of the day to autophagy and the body's ability to clean up, rest, repair, and restore. And that's a really nice balance of getting all the benefits of an eating window without feeling like you're denying your animal anything. Always remembering you're not ever reducing calories unless your goal is to help your dog lose weight. You're feeding the same number of calories. You're just doing so in a window that allows for optimum well-being the rest of the day.
Good answer. I'm going home and starving my dogs right now. I have so many action plans. No,
your wife will say that is the last time you're inviting those guys.
Exactly. Exactly. However, Dr. Gundry, like if your dog is used to eating every 40 minutes, that is when you do a sniffari. You can replace that you can replace snack time with sniff time. And that's a great way to fill the brain, move the body, and not think about food.